Hey, folks, welcome back to More Than a Refresh, the T3D sessions. Today we have Denis, Denis Magda of the Postgres community, as well as a new book called Just Use Postgres. Yes?
That's right. That's right. The book was my contribution to the database, because I decided that the database played a significant role in my career, and I want to contribute somehow back. And eventually, I decided that no, I don't want to hack the Postgres source code. Instead, I want to write something about
Sure.
Postgres. Yeah.
Well, I mean, I don't know. I'm old, so maybe you don't know this, but I actually was the co-author of the first O'Reilly book for Postgres back in 2001.
Wow.
Called Practical PostgreSQL. In fact, it came up on a recent episode. We were talking about the stability of the Postgres code base and usability, and how if you were to buy my book today, and it's still in print,
Mm-hmm.
95% of the book is still relevant because it hasn't really. I mean, sure, I don't talk about logical replication because it didn't exist, but in terms of actual usage, if you read that book, you can still use Postgres. What is it? Did you want to talk about your book, or was there another topic you want to talk about?
I mean, we can briefly discuss the book, and then we can dodge to a different topic. We'll see how it goes. But speaking about the book, right? Uh, it's good that you started with the story about the book you authored back in the days. And when I was drafting the book plan, when you create this plan and you share it with the publisher, in my case, it
Right.
was many, they always request the authors to come up with a list of the books which you will be competing with.
Right.
And I did my due diligence, and I would say that there are so many exceptional books which were created for Postgres. Probably like dozens and dozens and dozens of different books exist right now, which raises a reasonable question: why do we need to have yet another book about Postgres? But what I noticed during that research phase is that the books are excellent, and the books cover all you need to know, but primarily about the core Postgres capabilities.
Right.
Like what exists in the core database engine, the data types, the transactions, the joins, and everything that we know Postgres for. But my topic I wanted to go beyond that. Obviously, in my book, I had to cover some of the core capabilities, but I never wanted to create. I didn't want to create the book that will be retailing something which is already explained in a different resource. And eventually how this book different. This book shows what I call the modern or contemporary Postgres is capable of. Because many of us, including myself, when I started using Postgres, I used Postgres as a relational transactional database for OLTP workloads. This is how I learned it, and this is how I continued to use it all the years. But then, that I worked for Yugabyte.
Yep.
And when I joined the company because they were building, they build the distributed Postgres. But what I liked about them is I was allowed to work and research and study the core Postgres, like what I call vanilla Postgres, during my just normal business hours, and tell everyone like what Postgres can do right now. And I was rediscovering Postgres during those days in Yugabyte, because I heard that Postgres supports JSON natively, but I've never used it. I've never actually questioned myself, like, is this about storing just JSON as a blob in the database, or is it something more? And in fact, there is so much more, including special operators, functions, index types, etc. Then obviously you bump into the full text search capabilities. Then you bump into like time series workloads, and the list goes on and go on as soon as you step into that ecosystem of extensions.
Well, I think so.
Yeah.
Back to the initial part where we talk about books. I had the advantage. The only person I was competing against was Bruce Bruce Momjian,
Yeah.
core member,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
his book was largely just a regurgitation of the documentation. So we're able to take a more well. I mean, my book is all about the practitioner, right? It wasn't about
Mhm.
developers at all. Um, and when you talk about Yugabyte, I know Karthik, and one of the things I do like about Yugabyte a lot is they are stretching the boundaries of what Postgres can be, right? If you talk to PostgreSQL.org, if it doesn't come from PostgreSQL.org, it's not PostgreSQL. And that's fine. I mean, they're allowed their
Yeah.
opinion, but it's a very narrow-minded ideal for something that has been built up to be able to do so many things, like time series with timescale, right?
Yeah.
Or replacing the storage engine to be, network aware. And that way you have Neon and you have Aurora. So many very cool things that are capable with by extending the code base. But you're right. I mean, you just keep going, right? It never stops.
Exactly. Exactly. And in my case, I mean, after I call it rediscovered what Postgres is capable of. I started seeing it and talking about it differently because during those days at Yugabyte, I had an opportunity not just to talk to people online, but also to see them in person, including yourself, right? When we met
Mhm.
at the conference in the Silicon Valley, and it was inevitable that I would have some conversations when people would ask not only about Yugabyte but also about Postgres. The conversations were about Postgres, and I would say that yeah, like they would need to support some use case, and I would say that yeah, you can do that with Postgres, and they would say like, are you serious? Yeah, like for instance, that was sometimes that was related to JSON, sometimes it was
Mhm.
related to vectors. The vector search definitely became the big thing after the ChatGPT
Yeah.
release, and the people were just really they were surprised to know. And after having a growing number of such conversations, I decided that all right, let me just write something down, some ideas draft, and then probably I would create this book. The final nail in the wall was a meeting with a good friend of mine. We met for lunch, and eventually, and he also used Postgres for over a decade. We worked in the past together. We used Postgres. We knew it, and he had a goal. He had to migrate from one application from an on-prem environment to a public cloud.
Mhm.
And the problem was the database. The problem was that in op-prem they were using some document database. Everyone knows, but when they did not support the database officially in the cloud, like their DBA team
Right.
didn't do anything with the database. And my question was, all right, so like, but what do you want to do? You can deploy something on your own, or like what your DBA team offers you in the public cloud environment. And he listed a few databases, including Postgres. And I said, like, what's so special about your application? Like, this is a JavaScript application. It uses JSON by default. Like JSON, like all the objects are sort of a JSON representation. JSON is the communication format, data exchange format between the client and the backend. And
Mhm.
also JSON is stored as is in the document database. I said, all right, yes, like then why don't you use Postgres? And he says like, why? What do you mean Postgres? And Postgres,
Yeah, no,
Postgres has JSON, and
it's actually funny you bring that up because, what a lot of people don't realize well, I mean, they realize it now, but at the time they didn't realize it was like Amazon Document DB.
Mhm,
Amazon Document DB is just Postgres using Mongo APIs, right?
mhm,
Um, and the funny thing when you bring up this JSON and the transformation capabilities, that's actually my favorite part of Postgres now. I mean, as a hardcore database guy, of course, I like the ACID compliance and transaction isolation and all that good, the data types, strict data types, all those types of things. But what I really enjoy now is that Postgres could be your canonical store.
mhm. What do you mean,
And
like, yeah,
because of logical decoding, You
Okay.
can ship your data in any format, any way, anywhere, any service, hard drive, S3, post it via web, whatever it is you need to do. And but your data just sits in Postgres and you say replicate X. And
Uh-huh.
all you need is the right module to write the right module, right? That's one of my favorite things now.
Have you seen that video, the Planet Scale team? They did some experiment when they implemented the video backend, and
Yeah.
actually they used the logical replication. The data was stored like in some Postgres format in the
Yeah, and
database,
they
but
just
then
use the logical decoding to push it out. All
this is a
right.
great, yeah,
Well, this is a T3D, so we're limited to about 10 minutes. Is there any
yeah.
final thoughts that you wanted to share?
My final thought is, folks, if it happens that you bump into my book and you decide to read it, the title sounds provocative. It says like just use Postgres, but it doesn't mean that we are all here fanatics. That in
Only
my
some of us.
Yeah, on the same was in my yeah, in my representation, like just use Postgres is just a friendly hint from the Postgres community saying that before you decide to introduce another database, another storage into your architecture, give a try to Postgres because
Mhm.
there are many scenarios when Postgres will be enough. If Postgres is not enough, if you did all the tests, POCs, Postgres not enough, feel free to use anything else which will solve your use case. But before you make your architecture more complex, more complicated. Try to use what you already have, what you already experienced with.
All right, folks, this has been another T3D Sessions with Denis Magda of Just Use Postgres author fame. I have to agree with him. The reality is that even if you install Postgres and it doesn't work immediately, if you learn it, chances are with slight modification, it will. There are exceptions, but they are few and far between, and Postgres is free. And that's it, folks. Another T3D session.